Hello, my name is Amber Morgan, and today I'm going to be discussing the course that I created entitled Introductory Spanish for Healthcare Professionals. This course was created in order to provide a very basic introductory Spanish language skill set to English speakers so that they can better communicate with Spanish speakers. The audience, of course, would be English-speaking professionals who work in the healthcare industry and who have frequent interaction with patients who are Spanish-speaking and may have limited or no English-speaking skills. The reason that I wanted to create a course like this, it comes from several different, different reasons. I've had many friends and colleagues who have asked me over the years, what they recommend as far as courses that they could take or how that they could learn to speak Spanish and utilize Spanish in their particular professions. And generally, they are in some realm of the healthcare profession because this is where they tend to most often encounter Spanish-speaking patients that don't necessarily speak English and where they feel, that they really need some sort of way of better communicating with the patients. And although many facilities have interpreters often on site or on call, they can't always be available and might not always be able to, provide the what's needed at the time when it's needed. I worked as an interpreter many, many years ago in a hospital and for Spanish-speaking patients. And what I found was, I was on call and I could be called in the middle of the night, and it was difficult to keep us there, 20 or on staff 24 hours a day because you wouldn't always have a patient come in. But when a patient did come in, you wanted to have someone there. So, and even though we'd have interpreters on call, you couldn't always be there immediately. Sometimes it might take a little bit of time to get there. Sometimes we would need to interpret via telephone, and that would pose its own set of challenges. So, when medical professionals are able to at least communicate at a basic level with the patients until an interpreter can arrive, or if no interpreter is going to be available, they can at least, be able to get that essential information. It just really makes a big difference. It helps the patient feel more comfortable and at ease if they can communicate themselves and be understood. And it can help the medical professionals, whether they are working in the reception area or in administration, or if they are working directly in medical care for the patient. It really helps to have someone who can communicate, even if on a very basic level. So as I said, this course was designed as a very, very basic introduction to Spanish and language that can be utilized in a healthcare setting, specifically in a hospital or in a medical clinic. And I really wanted this to be more of kind of the first steps to creating a more expanded course, perhaps in the future, that could be utilized. It is intended as a standalone, asynchronous learning experience. So it is not intended for learners that would need to be in groups or be interacting with each other. It really is something that anyone who works in the healthcare profession could take the course and work at it at their own pace and use it in their own way. So we'll just talk a little bit about how it's set up. It is designed and delivered through the Canvas LMS. As you can see, I start with a home page, which gives you a little bit of information about the course and tells you how to get started. I do have a course overview video embedded, so if you do want to go into the course or would like to see that, the course overview kind of gives a little bit deeper and more in-depth look at the course, but I'll just kind of go through it and talk mostly about the modules and the activities within the modules. So I do use the modules model for this course. There are 4 currently modules. The first one I call Module 0 because it really is just how to get started in the course, orienting the learner about just online learning in general, how to work through the course, technical aspects of the course, and kind of what's expected and what, the pacing, what they need to do within the course, just giving them that overview. And then the 3 learning modules, as you can see, are organized based on various different topics. And each module, and I have an example of module 1 here to show you how they're broken down. Each module has 2 to 3 lessons. Modules 1 and 2 both have 3 lessons while Module 3 has 2 lessons. And these are primarily some sort of vocabulary or, language engagement lesson. And at the end, the final lesson for 2 and 3 have to do with something more specific, maybe a grammatical concept such as the alphabet or pronunciation skills. And then in Module 2, we talk specifically about like looking for cognates. And so we look at skills and how we can utilize, better utilize just language skills in general, how to recognize words that we may not know and figure out what they might mean. So this module, as I said, is a representation of all the modules. You have the objectives, you have a checklist, and then you have lesson quiz, and then you all have an overview quiz once all the lessons and quizzes are finished. I also include a resources tab, which provides links to any resource that was utilized within the module and that they might want to access outside of the course. And then expanding your knowledge is going to be an enrichment activity, and I'll talk about that as I go along. So as I said, each module has the objectives outlined for them. You can see I've color-coded here. This is color coding by each module, so they would know which module they're in based on the color of the heading. It's just a reminder of which module that they're in. And then the checklist for the module is going to tell them what they need to complete to get through the entire module. So it's just kind of a step-by-step what you need to do for the full module and just some reminders. There's a lot of repetition, as you'll see, just reminding them of specific things. And then in the lesson, there is a lesson, as I said, and the lesson will consist of either a slideshow that they need to view in PowerPoint, should be downloaded and opened in PowerPoint in order to access all the amazing features that are in there. Or it could be delivered in the form of a video. You also are going to have access to vocabulary lists within your lesson activities. And of course, you're going to have these reminders. Then again, this is the checklist of what they need to do. So the lesson is primarily going to come from the slideshow or, as I said, a video. They're also going to have a vocabulary Quizlet set, which will contain, and reference sheets, which will contain all of the vocab and the language questions, possible responses, things like that, that they would need to know for that module. The lesson slideshow is going to contain a variety of slides ranging from just general vocab, maybe it's a word, maybe it's a question or a possible response. But these are going to contain little links that also allow for pronunciation. You're going to have conversation slides, and these are going to be also having audio links. Almost everything has audio linked to it so that the students can both hear and read. And these are going to be little example conversations of something that you might encounter utilizing the module's vocabulary. And then, of course, some practice activities, creating certain types of conversations as well. And as you see, linked audio files. And then practice. Finally, a little practice to review what they have learned. Easy practice. They can click on the slides and it's going to reveal what the correct answers are for them. If a slideshow is not used, an instructional video might be made available. These can range from something on YouTube to something that was instructor created. These often will have a little bit of an interaction as well, where the students can practice and review what they are learning. And then finally, reference documents are going to be used. These are encouraged for them to use throughout the module while practicing the communicative skills, but also that they could print off. There are versions that they can print off and take with them to use on the job if needed. So these are going to be made available. These are going to highlight either vocabulary or something that they might need to reference. For example, here they're referencing the symptoms of the flu versus a cold, and you have those listed here, and they talk about that in the module. So then these are here for them to have a quick reference if they need it. Lesson quizzes are all going to have a series of different types of questions, which may range from, hey, what would you say in this situation? How would you find this information out? Or what is the patient wanting to know when they say blank? You might also have a picture asking you to identify what is wrong with the patient, or what symptom do you think the patient has, or who is this person? So the identification based on what you see in photos. You're going to have listening comprehension. It could be a question you hear and you have to respond. It could be a conversation you're listening to and you have to provide some information. And then text-based questions as well, where you might interpret a conversation. And then finally, knowledge expansion activities will be at the end of each module, just giving you an opportunity to take your knowledge outside the module and a little bit further, and often into the real world. So you can see here you're given an authentic patient form that you can look at and try to see how many cognates you can recognize after having the lesson on cognates. And then here, watching a video and trying to identify any symptoms that you see in here. So that concludes my course. I hope that you found it interesting. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer this for you. Have a great day.